Hi, welcome to Punchline Talks, the big interview. Today, my special guest is Mike Warner, well known for the Warner cars, retail, food, lots of different businesses. Mike, welcome to Punchline Talks today.
Good to be here this afternoon, Mark, and thank you for asking me.
Not a problem. Absolute pleasure to see you, sir. So, can you tell us, please, about your journey? I know you're retired now, aren't you?
I am, yes. I'm semi-retired. Reached quite a grand old age. I've been really until COVID came along. I was pretty, hands-on, and that was a time that I reassessed where life was. But going back before then, my early days in business, which started in the 70s, were primary in fuel, in petrol station. I was 20 something. I'd been to college. My grandfather had a petrol station, and I wanted something to do when I'd been to college. And he said, well, go and see what you can make of that. Just like that. And it was 5 pumps on the side of the road on the A38 in Tewkesbury. The A38 then in Tewkesbury, all the traffic that goes down the M5 went past this petrol station. Anyway, I got tucked into that, put some systems in, worked it all night during the summer with friends, and then we went into car repairs, and then we got into car sales, and it was the start of a business journey, which took me for probably 30 years, 25 years. We had businesses in Weston-super-Mare, Bristol, Wootton-under-Edge, various franchises. And during that time, we were successful. But the business, the whole industry was changing from the early days when the car business was really the Wild West. It had become a lot more sophisticated, and there was a lot of consolidation going on. And the Germans, in the early days, we were BMC, which is Austin and Morris, and then enter the market the Germans, enter the market the Japanese, and suddenly the big monopoly in the UK of Ford and BMC, which had about 90% of the market, was gradually broken. And that brought lots and lots of changes. So, when adapted to that, sold maybe things, did some management buyouts, all sorts of things. And anyway, it got to the sort of 80s, and the franchise.
How big was the company then, Mike, in the 80s? How many people were employed and how many garages did you have?
In the 80s, we would have had 7 garages, and we probably employed 200 people.
Okay. Probably when I bought my car off you.
You bought one, did you?
Yes, yeah, a long time ago. Yes, the 80s. I first got stationed here.
I hope it was good.
Yeah, I'll tell you otherwise. Yeah, it was all right. Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
But all through that journey, the thing that I was passionate about was customer service, and that was always the challenge, delivering good customer service. And I think that was one of the things that enabled us to grow as we did. We never had any big franchises that suddenly took off. The best franchise I ever held was Mercedes-Benz. I had that for 14 years, and we gave that up reluctantly because they were on a big expansion program. They had 100 dealers, and they went down to 25 in the country. We were offered to be part of it, but I got to the stage then I hadn't got the appetite to borrow, to incur huge borrowings on a risk business. So I thought it's time to get on now. I've got a son. I've got about two sons actually, but one son who it's taken a bit of a shine to what I was doing. And he'd been in Canada, and he didn't like cars, but he was interested in petrol stations and shops.
Which son is that? Which son is that, please? Which son is that, Mike?
Pardon?
Which son is that?
That's my son Guy,
right? Okay.
Who now runs his own food business, which trades under Warner's Retail, and that's done very well. Which we operate small supermarkets, sort of 4,000 or 5,000 square feet. He's always been passionate about customer service, run lots of awards for best retailer of the year, and I've had a financial interest in that and followed it very closely, although directly he's run it, and it gave me great, it opened up another industry to me, and something that I was always passionate about, local food. And I always had lots of farming friends. I could never understand. I used to say to them, you grow stuff, but you sell it to one customer, which is a marketing board. You don't have to get out there and sell it. Oh, well, it's not that easy, and et cetera, et cetera. I said, well, you can't moan about your margins if you don't do that. And my son, the Warner's Retail, gave an opportunity to get local suppliers into a supermarket environment and push local suppliers. So that was something that was a passion of mine, which gave me a lot of pleasure in actually seeing that being done. And the business Warner's Retail was quite early into that. We were doing that, started that about 15, 17 years ago.
Okay. And was that Warner Budgeons then?
That was Warner's Budgeons, yeah, as it was known then. That's gone on. He's moved on. He had 5, 6 stores, built 2 new ones, moved the business a bit more to being a landlord rather than a retailer. Budgeons, unfortunately, was taken over by Booker's, which was taken over by Tesco. And one of the reasons we really had to move on was that their product range wasn't big enough. And so we just opened another store in Upton on Severn. We built a 6,000 square foot store there, which operates under the Warner's Morrison's brand. And must say that's gone okay. But, it was something that for a second part of a life, it gave me an interest outside the motor business. The motor business went on. It's kept consolidating. Manufacturers have taken over manufacturers. Other brands that we didn't have got stronger. And but we've always been into local service, providing the community with a service, customer retention, and that stood the operation in good stead. And the other thing is that it's enabled me to spend a little bit of time in what I call the not-for-profit sector. I got involved when rugby first went professional. The year before that, I couldn't understand. I wasn't a close Gloucester rugby. I was a rugby fan, but I wasn't passionate about it. And I couldn't understand why the club wasn't doing better than it was. It seemed to be that somebody had to get hold of it and put the club on a basis that was good for Gloucester. So I made a mistake. I wrote a letter to the Citizen, and then I had a call saying, well, would you like to come and join our business committee? And I thought, well, yes, okay. So I went into this, it was a strange environment. And it was like, it was run like probably the way you run a small club, really. There was very few systems. Everything was done in a very casual way. And there was a group, other people. There was chap David Foyle, who took over as chairman, who'd already been on the Gloucester Business Committee. And two or three others came in, all from business backgrounds. And we ended up being put together as a board to take rugby professional and get hold of the club, put some proper systems in. We appointed a proper CEO, and then I was involved with Tom Walkinshaw coming in. Like Phil Vickery joined us as first time I met Phil. He came up as a young lad from Cornwall. I always remember sitting in a little office with him. He was the main office. Phil was nearly as big as the office. And the club went on, avoided relegation. Tom Walkinshaw got his feet under the table. In fact, Tom was really, he did save Gloucester Rugby Club. It was, otherwise, I think it would have, there weren't lots of people keen to put money into it. Anyway, the whole board did 4 or 5 years with Tom, and we went off in our own directions. And I'm glad to say the club has gone on from strength to strength. So that was a very interesting time of life.
I bet. What year was that when you first got involved with that then? And how old were you?
Well, it was about it's about 80, I think. 80, no, it was a bit later than that. 80, 84, 85, I suppose.
And
no, it'd be later than that, actually. It was what, 20, 22 years ago. No, it'd be the late 90s, actually.
Right.
Years go by.
And what's Phil Vickery like in those days? Obviously big as a house. And
well, he was big as a house. He was a very able player. He was very focused on what he did. And he made a very good rugby player. And he stayed with Gloucester, and he's made a success of what he's done. He came with another chap called Trevor Woodman, and I think he came from down country as well. But they actually made a big difference to Gloucester rugby. The years before, the other thing with my involvement, we got involved with sponsoring Mike Teague with a car, and that actually took me a little bit into rugby.
And the car industry itself, you're obviously still involved with that. It must have been quite a cutthroat business in those old days. Well, even now, it's not changed that much, is it?
It is a very cutthroat business. People, you see written that the big Tesco and Sainsbury's and the big grocers are villains. I'll tell you what, compared to the motor business, they're gentlemen. I mean, the motor business is controlled by international corporations, and they are ruthless. And they are totally ruthless. And you have to work hard, use your money. They take your margins, and when it doesn't suit them anymore, au revoir. And that's the way it works. I think at the moment, until the competition in the motor business now, with the big change to electric, is going to give the Chinese a huge entry to the European and English market, British market, because they're building electric cars 40% cheaper
Mm.
than the European manufacturers. And the Chinese motor industry, I think it's got about 100 brands, and there's all sorts of brands, and they all seem to be copies of European cars. Some of them have joint ventures with Volkswagen and Mercedes and Range Rover, but a lot of them they just copy them,
Yeah.
and the market there is so big. I think it's now the Chinese new car market. I think it's the biggest car market in the world,
Yeah.
and they're selling millions of electric cars, and they've got the prices of them down, which makes them affordable, because the electric car at the moment is beyond the reach of a lot of people, unfortunately.
Yes.
And the Chinese will revolutionize that.
I can see that totally, actually. And the whole car market is changing. I mean, the knock-on effect to garages is going to be huge as well, isn't it? You know, to fix an electric car is very much different to it's not a piston engine, is it? So
Well, it's one is that the most of it is software, so it's a software job, and very little servicing, very little to go wrong, and the old internal combustion engine, good as it has been, and I don't think it'll go completely, because I'm a great believer that hydrogen is probably going to come and make its day, although our government doesn't seem to want to recognize it. But there are various manufacturers in the world who believe hydrogen is the way forward. And it's as JCB have already got a diesel engine that they've got running, or they've got an engine of their own for site vehicles that runs on hydrogen. So there's huge advances being made with hydrogen power. So it's going to be over the next, I would say that you'll probably see in the next 10 years, the change there'll be in the retail motor industry will be equivalent to probably what's happened the last 50. But it'll happen in
yes. And the retail industry itself, the food industry, selling from cars where you might be selling, I don't know, 30 cars a week, 40 cars a week. I don't know what a good week is, something like that, I assume. And then suddenly you've got these shops and you're selling multiple products. There must be quite fun, Mike.
Yeah, you're selling to thousands of customers a week. But the premise of good customer service, having good trained staff, they're happy in their work environment, know what they're doing, that keeps the customers cheerful, keeping your availability up, and making a pleasant retail experience. That's what it's all about. And a lot of that we try to really do with cars, but you can measure it a lot easier when you're seeing hundreds of people a day. It's fascinating business, really.
I was going to say, so what was the sort of learning curve for you suddenly getting into that environment, or were you mates with these farmers and they helped, or how did it work?
It's we went around and we looked at the local products and that were available, and you started putting them on the shelves. But it comes down to taste. I'm a great believer in taste. I mean, you buy food, to a lot of people, food is food, but food is also about taste. You can have 5 sorts of cheddar cheese, and one of them, to my palate, will stand out as being exceptionally exciting. A lot of people say it's cheese, but there are people that do appreciate the taste of cheese or the taste of food, and that's what cooking is all about. And so it's having some interesting products, communicating that through social media to your customer base, displaying it, keeping a well-organized shop. Really, it's a bit like keeping your wardrobe tidy. You can go in there, You can see where everything is, and keeping shelves so everything's displayed properly. They're full, looks good, because you want the customer experience to be everybody sees the same. But after the shop's been a busy day, the shelves do become empty. It's there's a time when, deliveries come in once a day, usually early morning. Shop stocked up. You can stock up during the day, but all your fresh stuff, you run out of fresh, and you have another load in tomorrow.
Yeah. What would you say was the biggest mistake you made, Mike, in business? I talked to lots of business people, and what was your business biggest mistake?
If I said, sometimes I think I've been too loyal to my suppliers.
Right.
I've been hard
on to them too long.
A little bit, yeah. You build up a relationship, and you don't kick them out when they're it's a big product brand, especially with cars. You have a brand, you have a loyalty to it, and they provide you with the product, and you have to really take what's there. And you really, if you should say, well, there's people doing it better in the market than this, and it's time to have a change. But it's very difficult to do that, because you've got lots of customers who are loyal to the brand or a brand, and go and change brands that's not easy. So I'd say that probably, if I had my time over again in the motor business, I'd have little bit more freer with.
I was going to say, if you've got, say, I don't know, Volkswagen on your forecourt, and then Ford bring out something really shiny and nice, and you can't have a little bit of that because you've stuck with.
That's it.
Must be must be difficult.
Well, it is, because your success actually depends on what you've got to sell. And if you haven't got the right shape, right colour, or I say the shape, and somebody fancies a ABC car, that's what they fancy. That they'll go and have a change. And I think customer loyalty back in the 70s was far better, far more so than it is now. There is customer loyalty now. There are a lot of loyal customers, but it's different. Everybody expects good service. It's all right. Everybody expects value for money. It's all right. So if you haven't got those right, it doesn't matter how loyal people are, you're not going to do a number of transactions that you should do.
Yeah.
So you have to have the right product at the right place at the right time.
So what do you think?
Easier done.
No, if only we could all do that, isn't it? What do you think of Tesla then? Tesla, sorry, and Tesla. What do you think of that coming into the marketplace? Have you ever?
Tesla has been. I think he started 15 years ago or 20 years ago. Amazing story, really. I'm not an Elon Musk fan, but the guy managed to, he had PayPal. He got out of that. He didn't believe in it, and he built a space rocket. And to go and build a space rocket from nothing, when very little about it, it's just amazing. It's amazing how he did it. And then he saw there was an opportunity in electric cars, and so he got into it, and nearly went broke, but had a phenomenal flotation on Wall Street, gave him a bag of money, and he's went on and he's put Tesla as a global brand.
Yes. And a complete disruptor. No forecourts. You've got to go down to Avonmouth to pick up your car. There's only 3 colours. It's quite completely different, isn't it?
Yeah. And people, I've always thought of Tesla the first time I really looked at when I was in the States, and I thought, this is an iPhone on wheels. And I got in the car and I felt, this is my iPhone on wheels. And I think that was probably part of the attraction, the cockpit and electric, they have been cheaper to run. I'm not so sure they are anymore. The experience of pioneering, I think a lot of early electric car buyers were pioneers. And I mean, driving an electric car, if it had the range and the charging points, is a good proposition. I don't believe environmentally that they're any better than the internal combustion engine, because if you take all the factors in, manufacturing, the cells, how they mine, the mining industry behind lithium, the big thing is how you're going to scrap the cells. I mean, nobody really wants to talk about that. And there will be environmental problems, which we haven't seen.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was talking to someone the other day about solar panels, and they haven't worked out how to scrap solar panels yet either. In around 20 years.
I realise that. I'm a great advocate of solar. We've on 4 of our premises, we've just put a lot of solar in the last 12, 18 months. And then thinking about how they scrap them, I'm not so sure. I think there's another thing there which nobody wants to talk about it really.
No, funny you should say that, Mike. Mike, we're kind of running out of time. But one thing I do want to talk to you about is your work now that you've retired, because you do an awful lot for charity as well, don't you? And you get
I've always sort of got involved with various, I call not-for-profit sectors, and I think probably, I mean, one time I ran a thing called the Heart of England Horse Show, which Doughty used to sponsor. I'm not a horse person, but I knew this the chap who was the chief executive of the Doughty Group then, and he was passionate about the British Heart Foundation, and it was the charity of this horse show, and I got dragged into that, or I got involved in that from I used to help build the arenas and also the business sense, and I ended up running it, and it went on till such time as, unfortunately, the Doughty Group fell victim to Tube Investments, or was it? No, was it Tube? Yeah, TI, and it all, anything like that, Doughty Group weren't interested in. So that gave me a first taste of, sort of, we used to raise quite a lot of money, and I had a few years at the Everyman Theatre as a director. The live theatre is brilliant, always have to be subsidised. It's funny running a business that you have to keep going cat in hand all the time to balance your books, and I enjoyed that. But and then I'd Gloucester Rugby, and then after Gloucester Rugby, I've been involved in the Three Counties Society, which is based at Malvern, which has it's a Gloucestershire, Worcestershire, and Herefordshire society. So it's very much part of Gloucestershire. It's been predominantly run by farmers, and I got involved because we always used to take lots of cars and always had a big stand at the Three Counties show, which was quite exciting, and it was a good business platform. And somebody there asked me, said, "Well, would you like to come and join our council?" And I said, "No, I don't think it's not something I'm really interested in." And anyway, it was probably about 4 or 5 times of asking, and I thought, well, maybe I asked him a bit more about it. And, usual thing. Well, it's 4 meetings a year. Okay, and there's sort of our meetings, and okay, well, I will. and must have been a mad moment. And anyway, I went along to the first few meetings, and the chap who chaired it then said, "I got a job for you." I said, "What's that?" He said, I want you to head up our spring garden show with the RHS." And I said, "Oh." And I thought, And fortunately, I knew a little bit about the RHS because I had a next door neighbor who was very prominent in it, and he was had a big garden centre. So I knew a little bit about the industry, and it was a little bit. Anyway, I took over his chair, and very quickly realised that how the whole show could be enlarged. It could bring in more financial returns for both societies, and I went on. I still am chair of it, and I've been doing that for 20 years.
Wow.
And I joint chair it with the RHS. It is now the third biggest garden show in the country. It sort of levels up with Hampton Court. It's not Chelsea. People say it's nothing like Chelsea. Is pure theatre, but it is a big garden show, highly successful, lots of visitors, very, very broadly based. And that actually helps to underpin the success of the Three Counties Society. Also during that time, I was invited to chair the society, which I did for 12 years. So I was responsible for, I was chairman. So myself, the chief executive, was responsible to me. And it was quite a big responsibility, really. Anyway, there was so much that could be done, and we got the garden show going well. We managed to improve a lot of the systems, which gave us better control of the cash. The showground had been underinvested, and we had a 10-year program of reinvestment. We generated a lot of cash, spent it on the showground. We had a good chief executive, which for the last 10 years, I think he's done 10 years actually. A chap called Ken Nottage, who used to run Gloucester Rugby Club.
Yeah.
And I'd worked with him there. And it's a change in career. He agreed to come to Malvern, and Ken did a great job for us. And it's been really interesting as you meet royals, you meet farmers, you meet all sorts of people. And it's in business, it has caravan events, it has car shows, it has obviously the garden shows, has livestock, horses. There's just so many different income streams. I met a lot of people, and I'm told that what I did was successful. So
I've heard that as well. I've heard that as well. Extremely successful. Absolutely fantastic. We're kind of running out of time, Mike, already. Would you believe? What I've got to ask you, what's the last book that you've read, or what you read?
Do you know the last book I've read? It's a great literary work by Jeremy Clarkson called Diddley Squat. I think I love what he's done for agriculture. You either love or hate Jeremy Clarkson. I didn't like him much in the car side, but I admire the guy for the way he has gone into farming, and with the help of Amazon, but illustrated what a rough deal agriculture gets and how difficult it is to grow crops. And it's
sorry,
absolutely,
you know what? My daughter, we watched that ourselves.
yeah,
And my daughter's 23. She's a teacher. She knows nothing about farming, absolutely nothing, and nor do I. But after watching that, it was like, wow, it's like turning on a light switch. It was amazing.
it is absolutely. And the other thing I like is seeing him wrangling with the planners, because I think the planning system we've got and the way it's operated in the UK, it's got a lot to answer for. I mean, I think it holds back our economic progress. There's some good people. I'm not going to criticize people working in government. There are some good people, but somehow the system doesn't allow them to bring some of them have got really good ideas. It doesn't allow them to bring their ideas forward.
No, I totally agree with you. So finally, Mike, I've got to ask you for your top 3 business tips. I think we may have covered 2 of them, but just for this segment.
Well, I've thought hard about that, and I think number 1 is you've got to have a passion for what you do. If you're anybody thinking about they're running a business and they haven't got a passion, get somebody to run it for you who has got a passion, because it'll make a big difference. It goes all the way through everybody running it. Secondly, train and retain, I call it. You train people, and when you train them, you retain them. And that's basically good HR, making it an exciting place to work, and providing them with good training. And the other one, don't run out of money, manage your cash flow daily.
Bad point. And with that, unfortunately, is all we've got time for. Mike Warner, thanks ever so much for joining Punchline Talks.
Thank you very much, Mark.
Cheers. Bye.